Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Cieslinski, aka the Running Wine Mom. Today we have another amazing guest. Meet Jacqueline Butler. Meet Jacqueline Butler, a Philadelphia-based entrepreneur who's gone from physical education teacher, like me, to a powerhouse in the digital marketplace, ranking in the top 0.1% of Etsy sellers worldwide. But her journey to success wasn't a straight line. It was a roller coaster ride filled with challenges, setbacks, and ultimately triumph. Jacqueline's story is one of resilience, determination, and the unwavering belief that financial freedom is within reach of anyone willing to take the leap. Today, she's here to share her secret strategies and actionable advice on how you too can carve out your slice of the digital pie and create a life of abundance. From selling digital products on Etsy to coaching ambitious women on their entrepreneurial journeys, Jacqueline's expertise knows no bounds. So grab a glass of wine, get comfortable, and prepare to be inspired as we dive deep into Jacqueline's story and uncover the keys to success in the digital marketplace. Without further ado, let's welcome Jacqueline. Welcome.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, and I was just saying we got in contact like a little over 2 months ago, and I don't know where the year's gone.
Oh, I know. I feel like I was like, oh, that's a really far out that I'll finally be able to meet you. And then here we are.
Yes, I'm very excited for this conversation. So to start each episode, we have our wine, and win of the week segment. This is where we share our favorite bottle of wine, vent about something that has been bothering us, and celebrate our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So what is your wine, WINE, of the week?
So my wine is actually going to be athletic, non-alcoholic beer. So I have stopped drinking about like 4 months now. I haven't drank. So my favorite is their hazy IPA. So that would be my favorite substitute. But when I was drinking, it was Josh Cabernet.
So I love both of them. And I've done Athletic Brewing is really good. It's the best non-alcoholic beer that I've ever tried. Like it's so good. And prior to being pregnant, I drank it. And even when I was pregnant, like I'd have one, if I needed just a refreshing beer taste every once in a while. And it's so good. So I'm glad that you like it. So what is your WHINE of the week?
Oh, today I had to get my tooth drilled.
Oh no.
So I'm still on the mend. So if you can see me, if I have like a droopy side, that's.
You look great. And what is your win of the week?
I finished my course this
That's
week.
awesome.
Yeah, so my course on selling digital products on Etsy, I finally completed it, and now I'm just going through and all those little stupid errors I'm fixing, but that massive weight that has been on me of just getting it done is finished. So that was my big win of the week.
Congrats. That is awesome. And I've been watching, you post about all of your coaching course, and I'm excited to talk about that in the podcast. So I always like to ask all of my guests, what is one struggle you've overcome leading to where you are now? And what is one thing you are most proud of in life?
So I think that we all have to answer as a mom that like our kids are the most important and the best accomplishment. And so, next to that, what I would be most proud of would be actually taking the leap into leaving the world of education. It's something and becoming a top 0.1% Etsy seller. I mean, just sometimes when I say that, I don't believe it. I can't fathom that I am a globally ranked top 0.1% Etsy seller. Like that just blows my mind. And the fact that I held back for so many years, even with that status, I held back from not resigning from my teaching position because I was so fearful of losing the security, losing the benefits, losing the pension. I was so scared of that. So that was my big struggle, was that fear. And so I'm really proud of myself, not only for that accomplishment, but for also putting that resignation letter in. And
Probably felt so good.
Really did.
When our mutual friend, Brittany, she was saying, I guess she was maybe doing your headshots for you. Yeah. And she's like, you have to talk to this girl, Jacqueline. She's like, the whole time I hear this ding, 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 ding. And that was like all these sales that she was getting. And she's a phys ed teacher like you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know you. I'm like, I'm so proud of her for like doing what she's doing.
Getting out.
Yeah, it's hard. And it is, it's something that we when you get into the teaching world, you get into it for your pension, your summers off, and the stability of it. But the thing that I've kind of realized is whether you show up with your best self or your worst self in teaching, you still get the same. There's not like the motivation necessarily like to do all this better. Just because like you kind of don't have to, which I know that's horrible to say, but something that you're doing is like really amazing in the sense of going for your passion outside of it and working hard for yourself every day.
Yeah. And I love that you said that because it's so true. I mean, the only way to make more money while teaching is like time
Mm-hmm.
or trading your time for the pennies to the hours and
Yeah.
coaching or doing some other kind of activity for the kids. And
Right.
you know, that kind of thing, there's a ceiling. There's only how much time you have to do that and how much money they're going to give you. And it's
Right.
nothing. And so what I love about the business model that I'm in now and what really drew me to it is that there is absolutely no ceiling, that there is no ceiling of how many Etsy shops I can have, how many digital products I can make, how many other avenues I decide to go down. And this world of online business is so vast and so
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. So when I really started to get a hold of what was out there, it just, I couldn't justify all the things that were handcuffing me to education anymore.
Yeah. And you're so right as well. Like you can't take these days off, and you can't, like, if you needed to work on something, like you have to do it in a certain time frame, and we just don't always have that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the amount of sick time that I had to take, not only for when my kids were sick, but
Right.
just to be able to go to their field day or their book fair. And
Mm-hmm.
now I am present for everything.
That's
And that's
awesome.
just the freedom that this has all bought me is
Mm-hmm.
more than anything, more than any of the money. That doesn't even matter. It's the freedom that comes with this.
Right. I love that. So, all right. So on the Running Wine Mom, we start with fitness. So what is your favorite way to stay active?
Oh, I love my CrossFit gym. So I go to CrossFit. I try to shoot for 3 to 4 times a week, but
That's awesome.
yeah, love my CrossFit.
CrossFit is one I've always felt so intimidated by, and like I love
Easy.
that people do it. I just am like
Oh,
I.
they're so great. They scale everything. Every movement is scaled. I mean, I am not
That's
somebody that's doing all the crazy stuff. So
awesome. So how do you stay motivated to stay in your to maintain your fitness routine?
I think that the fact that the CrossFit classes are classes and groups. I mean, I
Hmm.
have so much fun with the people that I've met there. And if I have missed a couple days, like they let me know. And it's that accountability where I'm getting texts or, you know, a little email nudge. And, you know, I go because I love the people and because they keep me motivated. I think if I was just left to my own accord, nothing would get done for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that social peer pressure is something that I definitely can relate to. You're like, okay.
Yes. Yes.
What struggles do you have to stay healthy and fit?
Oh my gosh. Now working from home, it's just a constant struggle of being like, what do I have in the fridge right now? And
Mhm.
like, what did I get my kids, you know, for their lunchbox that I can munch on right now? So it's different. Whereas when I was actually teaching and working, I had to pack my lunch. I was very good.
Regimented, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's just that. It's just the freedom of having a full refrigerator at your disposal.
Yeah, that is probably really hard. Can you talk about the relationship that you feel is between mental health and physical health?
Oh, I mean, and as a former PE teacher, it's
Mhm.
honestly, I find that, you know, the studies out there for everything. But what I find for myself is that when I go to my CrossFit class, I get out of my head. And
Mhm.
so it gives me that time to just get out of my head. I don't think about anything other than what the task is at hand. And in CrossFit, they don't allow you to think about anything other than what you're actually doing at that moment.
Mhm.
So I think just allowing that myself to get out of my head. And then when I leave there, I'm no longer in my head, just
Mhm.
completely erases it. So if I can't do CrossFit for that day, going for a walk is one of the best things that I can do. And it just really clears my head and allows me to just reset and recalibrate.
Yeah, getting outside, walking is the most underrated, I feel like, form of physical activity. So I always am like, if you can't do something, go for a 10-minute walk.
Yeah.
So let's get into a little parenting. Can you tell us about your family?
Yes, I have two boys. One is in second grade and one is in kindergarten.
Hmm.
And so, they're really big into WWE and wrestling right now. So my main job as a mom is just trying to keep them alive and out of the emergency room.
I'm sure. And having a boy and a girl, boys are way different.
Right. Oh my gosh. And just having two, we actually had to get them like dummies that I had to fill with
Oh,
foam so they would stop wrestling each other. So
that
they go out on the trampoline and they do these like, I don't even know how they do. That's amazing. But yeah, they kick the shit out of these dummies and at least it's
I
not
love.
each other anymore.
Yeah, exactly. They have something else.
Yeah.
What do you think you were least prepared for in parenthood?
Oh, how hard it is I think two things. One, how hard it is to like keep them alive because all the things that they put in their mouth or that they touch or that they, could fall on them or that they could trip over or that they, all the things, like just being so anxious about keeping them safe all the time. And then I also don't think that I was prepared for the heartbreak now when like they're in school and they come and say that somebody was mean to them or, that they were left out. And, I'm like ready to take off my hoop earrings and like be like, where's the mom? Like um,
It gets, yeah.
yeah, I wasn't prepared for the mama bear coming out,
Hmm.
and the protectiveness that you have over your kids, especially with that kind of stuff. And you have to realize that you have no control and you need to let them, you
It's
know.
so, I know it's so, and then like, being in education, you see how mean some kids can be, and you're like,
Absolutely.
I don't want that to be my child. And that is definitely one of my biggest fears for as my kids get older is just like kids being mean. And you don't
Oh,
want to
it's
like step
horrible.
in too much, but then you're
I
like,
know.
I have to.
Oh, I know.
What do you think your parenting style is?
I would say a little bit more old school, than a lot of what I thought. I thought I was going to be like, I'm never going to yell at my kids. And I'm never, I mean, I have like veins coming out of my head when I'm screaming at them sometimes. Um, but yeah, I think it's more old school. I definitely want them to be outside. I want them to be playing. I want them, if they're home like today, it's go outside. And
Hmm.
I find that when they play with some of their friends, they're like, we were on Switch and we were watching YouTube. I'm like, I hate that. And,
Yeah.
I don't mind it once in a while, but when we have friends at our house, it's you're outside. You're not touching the Switch. You're not touching the iPad. Like you're out playing outside. So I think a little bit more old school in that sense. And sometimes they're like, we want to go over there because we get to do.
You're like, well, you're going to appreciate this one day.
I literally said that to them last night at dinner.
Yeah, and I am similar in that like my kids are always outside. It's like if we don't have to have of course we have the TV on sometimes, but like it's minimal because
Totally.
I
When we
want
need
them to
it.
be, when they're old enough riding their bikes around the neighborhood and all that.
Hmm.
So, what's
Yeah.
one piece of advice that you would give to other parents?
Take a breath before you start yelling and getting mad. Sometimes I get my youngest, my second is just such a scutch and like but every time I, lose my cool and then he explains to me, like his mind works in such a different way that then he'll explain to me why he did something and it fully makes sense. And if I just took a breath before I reacted and kind of figured out why he was doing what he was
Hmm.
doing, um, yeah, like I think that that's something that I really need to work on right now is just
No, it's hard because
taking a
there are
moment.
moments, yeah. Well, the other night, Willow, she put a sticker on like the side of our cabinets in our kitchen, and we've talked to her multiple times, obviously, about not doing that, and she's really, really good with not doing that kind of stuff. And we're like, Willow, why would you do this? Like we've talked about this, and she's like, well, I needed to put it on the boo boo, and we're thinking like her finger, like, well, why did you try to put it on your finger? We're like, we told you can't do this, and we're trying to explain it to her. And she's like, no, the boo boo there. And we're like, what is
Oh,
she talking about? And then we pull it off and there's like a little hole, like, where
oh
like a nail would be. So she thought that she was
yeah.
fixing the cabinet. And we're like, okay, we love that you thought to try to help the cabinet, but we still only put them on ourselves and
Yeah.
papers.
Yeah.
Once,
Right.
like, you want to like freak out because you're like, we've talked about this a million
A
times.
million times.
And then it's like, if you just sometimes do, I'm like, wait, what boo-boo are you talking about?
I
So
know. Me and my husband always call my second the Sour Patch Kid, because he's like he'll do something and then we're like, oh, like, why did you just do that? And then he'll like explain it and we're like, oh my gosh, I
like,
totally
oh yeah.
yeah. So I don't know if that means he's gonna be super manipulative when he gets older, but
Listen, he
I'm
knows what he
prepared for
wants.
and he knows how to get away with it.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into you. So let's start off with talking about your transition from PE teacher to Etsy seller. So can you share the pivotal moment or maybe realization that prompted you to transition, make that leap to become the full-time seller? As you were
Yeah.
saying, there was lots of like hesitation.
Yeah, I mean, right out of college, I was an athlete and everybody that I knew was going into teaching. My mom was a teacher, my friends were becoming teachers. It was just like the natural progression to go into teaching. And um, right out of college, after I got my first job, I knew right away that this was not necessarily for me. But I didn't have any other outlets. I didn't have anything else to go to, or the financial world was like, no, thank you. That
Hmm.
just all of that. I always had this entrepreneurial spirit about me, and I never knew how to tap into that. I didn't have anybody in my life that owned their own business, or it was in the online world of business, or had done anything that I kind of was like, oh, that's cool. How did that start? But I always knew something was within me. And that kind of led me into, um, you know, trying out the things like the MLMs and the, all that nonsense that I got roped into that didn't work, or that made me slide into the DMs of people that I didn't like from high school, like, and oh, hey,
Yeah.
how are you? You want to buy this product? Um, and so as I was kind of going, I knew more and more as the years went on that teaching was just not my thing. But I was stuck. Pension, benefits, security, and all that. So then in around 2016, when I got pregnant with my first, I realized that we had no money. And we were $50,000 in debt. We had to sell our house, moved back in with my parents, had my firstborn while I was home with my parents, which just is like not where you want to be as starting a family, living at home with your parents. It's just not ideal. And then right away, I get pregnant with my second. And then my husband loses his job, all while we're underneath the roof of my parents. And so I'm having full blown, breakdowns, and like, we have no money, no way out. I'm going to be living with my parents forever. And now I have two kids here too. So it got to the point of like, I had to do something. And then I searched, I tried another MLM. I tried to make physical products to sell on Etsy. I tried selling them at craft shows. I did freelancing. I did virtual assistant, social media management, which is hysterical because I hate social media. But that, all of those things, just because A, I knew that I needed to make money fast, and B, I like had this entrepreneurial spirit that I was like, I could go out and do something, but I was trying all the things and they weren't sticking. And so then that's when I finally figured out, when we were virtually teaching in 2020, I was creating these documents and worksheets and PDF files and all that for my kids already, for my students, that I just had this bright idea in the shower, where all amazing ideas come to us, that I should sell them. And I had already been on the Etsy platform selling, you know, like I did the Cricut machine thing. Like, oh, it was just like such no. So like, my apologies to anybody that ever bought something from me that I made from a Cricut machine. It was fine. You were part of my process. So then I put up a digital product on Etsy, and that was in June of 2020. and I made a couple sales. And for me, those couple sales were like, oh my gosh, I can actually do this. I can sell this. And I made a couple more products and I sold a couple more. And from June 2020 to December 2020, I had made $15,000
Wow.
just off of digital products on Etsy. And then what's so cool about digital products is that you make it once and you sell it over and over and over again. So when I made that product, it took me, as a teacher, we can make a worksheet in 20 minutes flat, boom, done, or create, and it looks good. It's got the border. It's all margined correctly. We got that down to a science. So I was pumping out products very quickly and posting them up, and they were selling like I couldn't believe.
Wow.
But I didn't have to do anything for it. So it was on the platform. Somebody bought it. Boom, it's fulfilled. It's done. It was no longer I get the order like a physical product. I get the order and then I'm like, shit, I have to like now make this. I have to go get the stuff. So then from my next year in 2021, it took me less than a year and a half to make my first 6 figures. And it was all passive income. And since then, so I made my first 6 figures within a year and a half. And then I have continued since then to make multiple 6 figures just from selling. Like I have sales that came in today that I made that product 3 years ago.
Wow.
So like I haven't even touched that listing and it's still continuing to sell. So to me, this was the perfect business model that aligned with my values, that it wasn't taking time away from my kids. Because if I was making this kind of money and making this volume of sales and I had to create something every time, I would never be with my family. I would never be with, doing the things that I enjoyed doing. So it allowed me to have this flexibility, have this freedom, work on it in the little pockets of time that I had. May or may not have been during prep period when I was still teaching.
I hear you.
So that business model really worked for me. And I think the like cherry on top of all of it was I wasn't on social media at all for the success of my shop, which to me was
so cool.
The best.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love everything you're saying. I'm like so enthralled by it. Because I feel as though your mindset is super similar to the way mine is. Like you just try all these things. And my best friend, we've known each other since kindergarten, and I'm always like, I got another crazy idea. And she's like, I'm here to support you. What can I do? And she's like number one hype girl in any product or thing that I've sold or tried to sell and it's just, I think that's what a lot of people miss, is that they're afraid to do something because they're afraid to fail. But just like you said, like if you all of a sudden in 2020 were like, I think I might try Etsy, like you might not have done it as well, or as, because you might not have had all of those failure, per se. And the mindset of like, if this doesn't work, it's okay. Or, however, which was actually going to be my next question, is what role did mindset play in that journey of, selling the stuff to leaving teaching?
Yeah, everything. And I think that it really started with those first couple sales, because at that moment when I made those couple sales, and these are not high ticket digital products, I was selling them for $3. So the fact that I made over 6 figures within a year and a half selling $3 products is wild. So when I had just made those couple sales, I very well could be like, oh, this isn't working. I only made like $10 this week in my first week, which I don't even know if I made that my first week, but I very well could have been like, I give up. But instead I looked at those couple sales and was like, oh my gosh, what I'm doing is working. And I stuck with it, stayed consistent and disciplined in the sense that like, I did not give up. And it's as simple as that. I had a friend at that time who was like, I had said, oh, I started this digital product Etsy shop. They were a coworker with me while I was teaching. They were like, oh, I want to do this. They made the most beautiful nursery prints that I had ever seen. And their social media game was off the charts. Like they knew exactly how to do it. They made 100 sales in 3 months. In their first 3 months of opening up, 100 sales. And she was like, it's just not fast enough for me. I'm done. I I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't believe it because I was like, if I made 100 sales in my first three, I
Yeah.
did. But like, to me, my mindset at that point was, yes, like
But like
we're doing
yeah.
something right. So
And
I think that the mindset was, oh
yeah,
God.
no, sorry. I was gonna say, and it's literally more money than you had, and you like you said, it's
Yeah.
digital products. It's not like you have to. Sorry, okay.
No,
I'm
yeah,
like, oh my god, what?
what?
Why?
Easy person. Exactly. So I think that that's really where my mindset shifted, um, and looking at it as as a positive thing and gratitude towards it. And I think that when you look at things from that light and not always this isn't working fast enough for me, this isn't, I'm not making enough money right away, it will pay off.
Yeah, consistency is definitely key. So the big question of, especially with teachers, is the struggle of the fear of leaving the stability
Mhm.
and the uncertainty of entrepreneurship. So what advice do you have for maybe someone who is hesitant to maybe take the leap, or um, what they could do to set themselves up, kind of?
When, so I would say probably for the last 2 years of teaching, my mental health was so bad. I mean, like it was just, and I knew, and it was really because of teaching. It was because I knew that I didn't want to do that anymore. And I had one foot out the door because I was making such good money on the side. But it was that fear and it was that back and forth of like something was pulling at me to leave, but then something else was pulling at me to stay. And like it was the pension, the benefits, the stability, the minuscule raise that you got every year, the stability of a contract, and also the guilt that comes along from your coworkers in your administration of, well, you would be letting the kids down, or you know, it shouldn't be about the money. Like, okay, but like,
But to live, you guys.
right. I mean, and they don't make it easy. So it was partly that. And then I didn't have a lot of support from the people that I worked with in the sense of they didn't understand the online business world,
Hmm.
which I get.
Hmm.
So for them, they had no idea what I was seeing on this side. They had no clue. And me trying to explain that to them, they couldn't wrap their head around anything other than teaching or anything other than a job that is super secure. So, my advice to somebody who maybe has resonated with anything that I said in my, journey to where I am is if you are feeling that pull, then you were made for something different. And that's just the bottom line. And I'm not saying made for more because I think teachers have the hardest job in the world. So I'm
Hmm.
never going to say, I was made for more than teaching. I was just made for different. And that's where if you feel like you were made for different, then you owe it to yourself to figure out what that is. And that can take a little while, but
Hmm.
you also need to understand that that's your direction. If you have that weighing on your heart and in your soul, that's where you need to trust and have faith in yourself, because what I was doing was fighting against it. And that's why my mental health for 2 years was shot, because
Hmm.
I was back and forth so much. When I told my husband this summer, I'm going to resign, he's like, thank God, because you've been so annoying for the past 2 years being
Being
back
like,
and
I want to
forth.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my
Oh
advice.
my gosh. Did you know I needed to hear all of this today?
You're
Like
welcome.
literally, oh my gosh. It's, I am not nearly as ready for you to leave teaching, and but maybe, one day it would be on that. Like I don't know that I could do it for 25 more years. That's not, but trying to figure out what else to do. So many people are like, well, what else would I do? And,
Yeah.
that's kind of the situation. I've actually had two people in the last week, say, you're not going to be here forever. I see what you're doing. And I was like, oh, I hope not, I hope this,
Yeah.
that one day I will be able to, but you're so right. Like, people just don't understand, like you were saying with the digital products. They're like, what digital products? Like, I don't know. What does that even
Yeah.
mean? And you're like, it's this whole other world that I've been, focused on. So,
Yeah. And like what it allowed me to do is beyond. I really thought that like there might be a part of me that missed teaching.
Hmm.
Zero.
Hmm.
Nothing. I don't miss anything. I miss my coworkers. And I miss the relationships that I had with my kids,
Right.
with my students. But other than that, there was nothing else that I missed. And what I gained from leaving teaching was more than I ever could have asked for. And it's not money. It's the freedom and flexibility that comes in my life. So I was a high school teacher and I contractually had to be at school at 7:05 in the morning. So I was leaving my house at 6:30 in the morning. I never got to see my kids.
Mm.
I was not the one that was in charge of taking them to school and doing all the things in the morning. I rushed out the door before they were even up. And the first time that I saw my kids was when I was in the pickup line grabbing them. And that was heartbreaking because, I miss them. And
Hmm.
now when I'm on my computer, I have my hot cup of coffee rather than my
So you can
lukewarm
finish
cup.
it.
Yes, I can finish my cup of coffee. I'm sitting here and I have my kids run up to me as they wake up in their little jammies because they still love me. They're at that age. And I get those
Hmm.
snuggles in the morning of them and like those slow mornings. I get to take them to school. I get to be the homeroom mom for their parties. I
Hmm.
don't have to worry about like, oh, I can't be seen because if somebody knows I took a sick
Oh,
day and
I know.
all this, and that's really all within us. But,
Hmm.
that's what I gained. It's the best. I'm so grateful. I'm full of gratitude every day because of it.
I love that. I'm so happy. I am so happy for you. Like literally, I'm
Thank
like, I don't
you.
even know you, that like that. But as I've said, I've been following you, and I'm like, I'm just so happy for this person. So
Thank
I
you.
wish you
Thank
much
you.
success. So
Thank
let's talk
you.
about a little bit of advice. So you started your Etsy Profits Pro course. So
Yeah.
how will this help aspiring sellers reach their unlimited potential?
Yeah. I think, I definitely was. I can't live my life being a top 0.1% Etsy seller and not do anything with it and not
Right.
share because, and it really got to me when I realized the freedom, like what that felt like, what those
Hmm.
snuggles felt like in the morning, and what that freedom felt like to be able to like get my hair done at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. That like is just the little things
Yeah.
that I felt so called to share
Hmm.
what I did with other women because this experience, and even if it's not leaving your job, maybe it's just I need to get out of debt and I need some extra money on the side. Or, I just want to be able to pay for a trip to Disney without, tapping into our
Hmm.
savings or, whatever it is. I want to take a day off, but I don't want it to like bite me in the ass because I did. Even if it's just for that, this business model is perfect. And even for the introvert, for the person who doesn't want to put their face out on social
Hmm.
media, wants to have a faceless business. I mean, nobody knew that this was happening with me until I resigned from my job. And so when I moved into this role of coaching other women how to sell digital products on Etsy, this has really been like a game changer because I'm dropping and putting everything out there. I have my
Hmm.
strategy, how I optimize my shop, how I create the digital products and how I have organic and free reach that I don't do anything through social media or through paid advertising, which is like the cornerstone of my program. So I would say that like my biggest advice for somebody who was looking into this, or maybe they're in that world and they want to maybe try to DIY it themselves, I would first of all suggest not to do that. If you want to get like a fast track to success, find a mentor or a coach that whose values align with yours. But I would say that the most important, there's three things. One is your mindset, get your mindset right. And two, do the research, find your products that are in high demand and that have low saturation, like low competition. And even if they are highly saturated and have a lot of competition, try to find an angle in that world to set yourself apart from the rest. And then the third is thinking like a shopper, creating that emotional connection with the person who is going to be buying a product. Because when you have all of those, your mindset, the proper research, and an emotional connection to the buyer, then that trifecta is what's going to ultimately make your products a very easy buy now.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great advice. So the advice for the positive, what do you see some common mistakes that maybe sellers are making or how to avoid them?
So I think that a lot of people are in this world. They're selling these PLR products, which are private label rights products, where like somebody else creates it for you, and then
Hmm.
you just go and sell. Um, so people are doing that, and they're spending all this money on these already done products, and then they're just putting them out there to sell, and it's just not a sustainable business plan because a million other people are buying those products too and
Hmm.
putting out the same products. So you have the same product out there being sold by multiple
Mm.
people. What is going to set you apart is your unique avenue and lane that you choose to create for yourself. And it's something that I teach in my course is how to find that angle. I think that that's a big one. And then, it's just kind of like going back to the mindset, like having the right mindset as you are entering into this world and having that right from the get-go.
Yeah, it's so true. So, how important do you think it is for someone to find like a niche selection? Is it niche or niche? I don't know.
Niche.
Niche,
Remember, I
yeah.
did my research and
Yeah.
my stories.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sorry.
I
Um,
struggle with that too.
I know. That's what I'm like. Someone said I thought it was niche, and then someone said niche the other day, and I'm like, have I been saying it
No,
wrong?
it's,
I
yeah,
forgot.
I know.
All
I thought
right.
the same thing. Yeah.
So, how important is it for someone to find a niche selection for success? Like, do you think that
The
you
most.
should or shouldn't? Yeah. Okay.
100%. Yeah. And the more you niche down,
Hmm.
and so for example, instead of just saying, I'm going to sell products about traveling, like that's a niche, but it's huge.
Huge.
So, like gigantic. What I teach in my course is how to narrow down that niche into a specific target audience and or specific products. So like instead of travel is my niche, because you can have a million things in travel, to niche it all the way down to I sell products and digital products and resources for travel agents specifically. And just that.
Hmm.
So then, like, that's what your target audience is. And then you know exactly how to market your product
Right.
because you are selling to one person.
Hmm.
And that's so important. When you sell to everyone, you sell to no one. When you
Yeah.
have a million niches, the buyer is confused, and a confused buyer says no.
Right. No, that makes so much sense. Um, and that is, I feel like a lot of times people are like, oh, I'll try this. I feel like I'm like that sometimes where I'm like, oh, I'll try all these different things and see what works. But then it's like, you're not going to be successful kind of in that, area.
Yeah. And you're
Um,
spinning your wheels like in a bunch of
yeah.
different places.
So what role do you think community and maybe collaborative play importance is in growing a successful Etsy business? And how do you kind of foster that in your course? More like I know community is a part of everything.
Yeah, it is. It is and it isn't for
Yeah.
Etsy. To be completely honest, like I feel like my shop, my actual Etsy shop, the only community that I really
Mhm.
fostered as far as my Etsy shop would be trying to grab an email list and getting my email subscribers from there. The community aspect for the success of business is different.
Right.
So the community aspect of my coaching business, that's huge because that really plays a really big role in mentoring and helping each other grow. And
Hmm.
it's something that I do I give my weekly office hours where they have one-on-one support with me
Oh, that's
to,
awesome.
yeah, that like they have direct access to me for any kind of questions. And then all the other members get to see the questions in the group and, get to, for the good of the group,
Right.
getting the answers to those questions. But why I think that the Etsy shop is such a it's like an introvert's dream for
I was just
somebody.
gonna say that I feel
Yeah.
as I was like thinking of the community question, I'm like, is there a community? I don't even know. Like,
No, and don't get me wrong, like you can certainly market your shop in a way where you have a Facebook group and that's where you
hmm.
kind of send things, but it's really just like an introvert's dream business where you can do this all just on the DL and like
Hmm.
nobody needs to know you're doing it. And you are still going to have massive success when you have the right strategies in place.
Yeah. So you have the Passive Profits Masterclass. How do you think that empowers sellers to generate passive income for Etsy?
So my master class is like a free workshop that I give to people who are just a little bit interested in what's going on and maybe how to do it. And I give out some really great nuggets in that master class um, on how to get started and what some of the myths are and what some of the like super secret sauce things that go into the systems that and my proven system. So that one really kind of touches on the big points and understanding the business model that is digital products and selling on Etsy. It really focuses on how to leverage the 96 million people that are coming to the Etsy platform with their wallets out. Like
Hmm.
you can take away every other marketing strategy and just figure out how to sell on the Etsy platform. Like, I don't know about you, but getting a slice of the 96 million pie, like I'll take that. I will
Yeah.
take that. And
Whether
the,
one
yeah,
person or 1 million people, like, and I think that's also what people kind of they think, oh, there's not enough room for me. There's enough room for everybody.
there's enough room for everyone. It is not too saturated. You just need to know how to find the products that
Hmm.
aren't saturated. And that's what people, when they try to DIY it themselves, that's when they really start to like, they get overwhelmed and they get
Hmm.
lost. And I think following a proven system of finding those unicorn products that are high demand and low saturated, that you can create an emotional connection with your potential customers, like it's a game changer. So
Yeah.
it's not too saturated. There's room for everyone. And the majority of Etsy sellers give up. So if you don't give up, you can be
Yes.
successful.
Yeah. And I think that's again with so many things in life that if you maybe after year one, you're like, oh, I made my $15,000, like, cool, that's it. And then, or
Yeah.
like your friend, I made $100. It's like,
Yeah.
you don't know where it could take you. And so many things take more than, there are, of course, overnight success stories for things, but the consistency is just, I think, really what is lacking in so many scenarios of people and what puts you ahead of so many others, which is, people kind of forget, I think.
Yeah.
So, how do you recommend maybe sellers approach pricing their digital products? You said yours were $3. Like, was that on purpose that you did $3? Or you kind of just threw a target at
I
a
actually
board?
started selling my initial price was $2.75. The pricing strategy that I use, you want to be competitive with other people who are selling similar items. And I have a couple secret strategies that I
Mm-hmm.
use, but you don't want to be too low. You don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
too high, but you also don't want to be in the middle. So you want to be able to show your value of the product. But what's so great about your pricing on digital products is that the profit margin for digital products is the highest out of any other, I would say, of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because when in freelancing and virtual assistants, you're trading your time for money.
Mm-hmm.
So that, you can only make as much as you have time to serve or to give or to create. But with digital products, your profit margin, I was just writing this down, it's 75 to 90% profit margin on Etsy.
Wow.
75 to 90%. So if I'm selling that product for $3.15, I'm making it's like $2.80 on that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's with the Etsy fees taken out because that's all that's taken out. I have no shipping cost, I have no material cost, I have no labor cost. So that's what's kind of different. And with like things like print on demand, which has been a big thing that people have gotten into. And when people are like, I made $100,000 this year, I made $100,000 this month,
Yeah.
those things sell. I don't mess with print on demand anymore. And I have my reasons why, but the profit margin for that is 10 to 18%. So,
Wow.
they might be saying, oh, I can show you how to make $50,000 in a month. But when you look at the shipping costs, the profit margin, the headaches when they get it wrong and all of that.
Yeah.
It's different. But I would say one of my secret strategies is the third quarter strategy. And that is being within 50 to 75% of all of your competitors. So you don't want
Okay.
to be too low. You don't want to be too high. You don't want to be at 50%. You want to be a little bit above it
Well, mhm.
so that you are showing your value, but you're also still affordable in with your
Yeah.
competitors. So
And
that's like my third quarter strategy.
yeah, and that is so, I'm trying to think of myself like when I go in because you're like, oh, if it's like, 75, I don't know, is that going to be a good product but then if it's super high, you're like, I can get it cheaper. So everything that you
Yeah.
say, that makes
Because
so
you
much sense.
also look, if you're pricing it too low, it's coming across as cheap.
Right.
You think that the customer's looking at that and saying, oh, I can get this for, this dollar price. Well, first of all,
Hmm.
you want to make a profit too.
Hmm.
You want to make a
Yeah.
profit. So like, don't
Because
price your,
you're
what's the
not going to
point?
make, yeah, you have to sell
Yeah.
so many more.
Yeah.
Um, that's a great strategy. So do you do any marketing for it or you said you want to, you talk about not using the ads, but do you have to do any marketing outside of that?
Yeah, so the last social media post that I posted for my shop was in 2021.
Wow.
It had 3 likes. It was my mom, my husband, and my best friend. Like that was it. And they probably were the ones that were liking my stuff, throughout. And when
Right.
I realized in the analytics that that's not where my my traffic was being driven from was from social media, I was like, awesome, I'm out because this
Right.
sucks. I hate it. I hate the grind of it. I hate it. Um, so when I realized that that's not where they were, and you got to think about it. If you were looking for something, a digital product, let's just say a habit tracker or a
Hmm.
wedding invitation or a motivational wall art, if you were looking for those digital downloads, are you going to Instagram to find
True.
that? You're not going there for that. So when you start to realize where your traffic is actually coming from, then you can focus on those means. Like, where would you go for that stuff? I would go to Pinterest. I would go to
Hmm.
Google. I would go to Etsy. So
Right.
utilizing that and saying, okay,
Right.
this is what's working and this is where my customers are coming from. I need to figure out how to optimize that and make
Hmm.
that work better for me because I'm barely putting in any work and I'm spinning my
Right.
wheels over here on social media.
Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned Pinterest because I mean I've used Pinterest forever, but I just started a new Pinterest account for like putting my blog posts out because I've been like reading a lot about how that's where a lot of people are looking for that and that kind of stuff. Like, and it's like, yeah, as you're saying this, I wouldn't go if I needed, something to look in Instagram. I'd look literally on Etsy or Google or, those kind of things.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Have you, so the one thing in social media, I swear it is like going crazy where you're like, what do I do with hashtags? What do I do with this? And every like couple months, it's all changing. Is there like Etsy, do you have to stay ahead of the curve, adapt to any changes, or has it kind of been the same since you started?
So the only changes so the Etsy algorithm works like this. It wants to know that that people want your products. So
Hmm.
the more products you sell, the higher up in the algorithm you go. And that doesn't change. The bottom line is that Etsy wants to make money.
Hmm.
They want to make money. So if you are the one that has products that are making money, they are going to be pushing that up front. The only time that the algorithm changes is when Etsy decides to like add in a new feature. So for example, Etsy pushed out a new feature. I don't know, maybe it was like 2 years ago, maybe, when they added the free shipping because they wanted
Hmm.
to start to compete with Amazon in that sense. And so they pushed out free shipping. So then they were prioritizing any shop
Mm,
that was offering free shipping. So when
gotcha.
they make those changes, or if you are a star seller, then that was a new program I think they started 2 years ago too. And if you meet the qualifications of a star seller, they're going to kind of prioritize your products. So
Hmm.
it's just really, if Etsy's going to somehow make money off of this, or it's going to help them in some type of way, but it doesn't happen as often as like an Instagram
Oh, it's
algorithm
so
change.
frustrating.
And that's the thing. Like
Right.
there's a lot that I can say about social media.
Hmm.
Um, but that's one of the things, like
Yeah.
just trying to keep up.
It's
with
too much. I
it's
mean, it
way too
is.
much.
And I'm like, right when I feel like I have it, they're like,
Yep.
oh, we're going to add in like this other thing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
You're like, I
So
don't have time
that's
for
why
this
I'm
shit.
like, it's seriously, it's like so frustrating because you're like, you're looking and you're learning. And then it's like, just kidding. Now you don't use hashtags. Now we want square photos. Now we want reels. And now you can't. And it's like, okay, I don't know.
Oh,
I'm
I
just going
know.
to keep doing what I'm doing. And
There
hopefully
was
people like
even
me.
Yeah, there was even one where like if you held it down, then it turned into like this really long rectangle. I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good.
It's like, and I love doing it. I'm like, I can't
Yeah.
with the strategies, but
Yeah. And I
I'm
don't,
glad that
and you are
Etsy.
great. You are great at
Thank you.
social media. I have like I post one thing, I'm like, I'm spent. That
Oh
was too
my
much.
gosh. Yeah, no, I'm like always videoing and recording. And like I said, it's not really like I'm doing anything outside of what I would be doing anyway. So I might as well just show it off, you know? So outside of Etsy, is there any other digital marketing that you think that you're going to start pursuing, or do you think you're going to be the Etsy queen?
I have some ideas.
Okay.
Yeah. I have some
I love
ideas.
it. I love
Yes,
it.
I am. What I will say is, yes, I'm scaling my business, but
That's
I
awesome.
haven't done it yet, and I don't
Okay.
want to say it,
Yeah.
and especially if it doesn't end up happening.
That's okay. So, and then with your coaching, so your coaching courses are, technically outside of Etsy, but dealing with the Etsy.
Mhm.
How do you hope to grow that? And do you have to do like any more like extra marketing for that? Or what made you decide, I know you said that being in the top tier, you felt like you needed to, which you should. How was that building that?
So I think that because the cornerstone of my course is based on having a successful side hustle without social media,
Mm-hmm.
that was something that was so important to me and something that I know resonates with other people that just don't want to show up on social media all the time. That,
Right.
maybe they just don't feel comfortable. Maybe they don't have the time or the energy to keep up with the trends and all of that, but they still want to have a successful business. And I think that we are in this day and age, we are told that the only way that you can have a successful business is if you also have it on social media. And
Mm-hmm.
while I think social media can legitimize your business, I don't
Right.
think that that is the best way for
For
all
everyone.
businesses to run for
Right.
everyone. So because that's the cornerstone of my business with Etsy, I am also on this new journey of being a coach where I do kind of have to show up on social media a little bit. And as I've done that, I've realized I don't want to do this anymore. So my new mission in life is to show that you can have a successful business in general
Mm-hmm.
off of social media. So I think
Yeah.
that that's also the direction that I want to go in is, marketing my course in non-social media ways to just prove to people that,
It
we
doesn't
don't
have to
have,
be that way.
this doesn't have to be the answer for you.
Yeah, and that is something, as I was saying, like people need that because there is I think also the fear of failure comes from, oh, I don't want to put my stuff, I don't want to build a social media. I only have
Mhm.
200 followers. Like nobody's going to follow me. But the reality of it is someone might have 1 million followers and not have a strong community. But if you have 200 followers and those 200 people are loyal to you and
Yeah.
will support you, you can make something of that, I feel.
Yeah. And
Uh,
you definitely can. And I think that there's other ways of just, I use it with my email marketing. My email
right.
marketing is that's kind of how I do it. My
Hmm.
Pinterest. And there's other ways out there that you can make money that you don't have to worry so much about it. But if social media is your jam, like go for it. But if it's
Right.
not, it
Then
doesn't
you
have
don't
to
have
be the
to.
end all be all. Yeah.
That's awesome. So looking back, what do you think has been the most rewarding aspect of achieving where you are now, through digital marketing?
Oh, and like I said, just the freedom of being with my kids and
Hmm.
just like being present at home more. I mean, my
Yeah.
coworker is my dog and it's the
Yeah.
best.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's
I know it is. Like I this year in New Jersey, they added new ways you could use your sick days. And it's like, it is nice because it is beneficial. Like if there's school closed or childcare closed, you can use you can use a sick day instead of like, taking a sick day and then hiding in the house all day, I guess. But so I used one Friday, a half day, because my husband had to go into work. And apparently it was a blacked out day because it was professional development. And I did my CPR certification prior to that week, like literally as soon as I found out, I switched. I was like, okay, I can find an online course. I did everything, take the day, whatever. And then like I get an email Monday, like, we need documentation that blah, 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 and I'm like, my mother-in-law watches my kids and she couldn't do it. So would you like me to have you write a note? Like, I don't, and I did what I was supposed to do in that hour and a half or whatever that it was during the beginning of the week. So like, are we really being micromanaged like this much?
It's
just like
100%. I can feel that to my core because when I had run out of my sick days with my second child, I had a big medical scare where I had to go get a procedure done in the hospital and I had no sick days left. And I had to like beg them I like internally had everybody was covering for me. I had to work it all out. I had to go on this appointment and, yeah, like it was all hush hush because they were like, you can't tell the principal,
I know.
you can't. And like that stress of it just dehumanizes us.
Yeah, that's
sense.
the thing. That's the one thing. Like you can like you love the teaching, the kids, the camaraderie of everything, but all the little things that you're like, I thought that like I know what I'm doing, and I don't know. Do I? No, I'm not
Can I
really
just
sure.
be a human?
Yeah. So some of the things, it's just, but maybe one day I'll be where you are. Hopefully.
I know you will. I know you will.
Thank you. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that maybe before we kind of come to the ending? I think we
So
went
I
through
do
everything.
have a 5-step starter guide. So if any of your listeners are interested in learning about this, I do have it's free. If you could just put it in the show notes for them.
Yeah.
And then that way you can kind of see the first steps that I took to opening up my Etsy shop. Like you could just do it right from there. And then that would get you on my email list. So from there,
Perfect.
if you had any direct questions to ask me, shoot me an email, just reply back to one of my emails. And yeah, that would be the best way to kind of get in touch with me. And especially since I'm deciding to kind of phase out of Instagram, maybe you could show me a little bit of love and say, hey, what's up? JacquelineButler.co on Instagram. But yeah, my email is the best way to get in touch with me.
Awesome. Yeah. And I will link all of that. I have all of the links, which I'm excited and sharing. I'll be sharing a bunch of stuff, as this episode airs for everyone to see and before. So I think that's going to be a great place to end. So that's going to bring us to the end of another episode of The Running Wine Mom. A huge thank you to our guest, Jacqueline, for sharing her invaluable insights and journey with us today. Your story, it's truly inspiring. It reminds us all that with passion, perseverance, and a willingness to embrace change, we can create the life of our dreams. Your journey from teacher to top Etsy seller is a testament to the power of determination and the endless possibilities that await those who dare to chase their dreams. Remember, no matter where you are in your journey, you have the power to rewrite your story and create a life filled with purpose, fulfillment, and abundance. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it. You can also follow me on Instagram at @therunningwinemom_. And Jacqueline, can you remind the listeners one more time where they can find you?
Sure.
On websites or not on social media.
You can find me on social media still. It's at JacquelineButler.co on Instagram, but also grab my free guide and then you have direct access to me through email.
Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, and keep embracing the joy of motherhood. Thank you, Jacqueline. I appreciate this so much. Thank you. Cheers, and I'll be back next Tuesday.